most of my customers tend to be facing grumpy sort of members of the public, if you like. They're council staff or retail outlets and those sort of people. But having heard a bit more about the background of what's going on here, I can understand a little bit more about why this might be relevant. Particularly poignant, I thought, was the comment from the Minister, who said that we're all playing a part in this industry. The reputation of it depends on each and every one of us. Just tell me if you can, are you working independently to the sharing gangs? Is that how things tend to work? You'll come in as a separate organisation to the gang? Is it by and large, or is it different to that? Yes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Yeah,
okay.
sometimes they're independent contractors, sometimes they go through the contractor, the sharing contractor.
Okay, all right.
But most professional wool classes they're employed by the farmer, not the contractor.
Oh, okay, all right, sweet. So as an independent, I guess, then we've got a slightly different voice and a perspective, don't we? We aren't attached to the sharing gang, if you like. All right, so the purpose of today was to try to give you something to take away. This workshop normally takes about 4 hours. We're trying to cram it into about 15 minutes. So I've just tried to hand pick one or two things that might be of relevance. I guess the whole point of this information is that we're looking to engage professionally out there in the wool shed when we're seeing perhaps activities going on that we're not entirely happy with. Does that sound fair enough? So what does engage professionally look like? I guess it's a really important question. If we get it right, then we're keeping ourselves safe when we're having to deal with those challenging circumstances, right? If we get it right, then we are looking after ourselves, we're looking after other people in the shed as well, and also the animals at the same time. So that's the important part of that. It's a shame these slides aren't coming up. Be a hell of a lot more helpful. But in every circumstance, when you're seeing something going on out there, there's one thing that you can control. What is that one thing, do you think?
How you react.
Absolutely right, 100%. How you behave in that moment. All right, and you've got a couple of options, don't you? Option number one is you get highly offended by that, and you become loud and verbose and start shouting at people and saying that's not bloody good enough, etc. And really getting quite upset about the whole thing. You could go down that road, in which case it might actually make the situation even worse. The other option is if we can control our own emotions, we might be able to nip it in the bud, there we go, and we might be able to get to the problem without it becoming even more of a big deal than it already is. Thanks, nice job.
Thanks, Dave.
Ooh, stand on the line.
Yeah. Margaret can move her through that. So you can tell Margaret she can move through. So saves you.
No, I've got the remote, I'm all good. So we've come up with this phrase, if you like, called CRED, and it's how we go about behaving professionally in those moments where perhaps we're under a bit of pressure, we're seeing something that we're not all that happy with. Each of the letters of CRED stands for something. It's got to be short, it's got to be easy to remember, so that we can think of it in the heat of the moment, if you like. So the C is all about compassion, and our compassion comes out in the very start of our interaction about that matter, if you like. So if I said there were 3 parts that form the basis of a first impression, you want to go and talk to somebody about something, you want to get off to a good start about that, there's 3 parts that make it up. The body language, the words that you use, and the tone that you speak in. Which of those is the most important, do you think? Body language is worth 55% of a first impression. So when we smile, when we give somebody a bit of a wave, when we raise our eyebrows or something, look them in the eye, etc., all of that starts to paint a picture, doesn't it? Are we going to be somebody that's coming to talk to somebody and be grumpy, or are we going to be somebody that's prepared to have a conversation? We can see that within the first few seconds. 55% comes from the body language. What's the next most important? Is it the tone that we speak in or the words that we use? It's the tone, isn't it? It's not what's said, it's how it's said that becomes really important. That's worth 38%. And the last 7 are the words themselves. All right, that's all about the first impression. The next component of CRED is about respect. And I guess how we treat people becomes an important part of that, doesn't it? We might see shearers that are covered in tattoos. They might be from a rough background or something like that. They might have spent some time inside. Who knows? We don't judge them about that. They're going about their business. We don't talk down to them about that sort of thing. We're not better than them. We're all doing this similar sorts of work, aren't we? That's where the respect side of things comes across in spades. They're looking potentially for reasons to be upset with us. We're not going to give them one. They might have a different opinion about something to us. That's okay. They don't all have to believe exactly the same things as us. That's fine. We're going to let them have their own opinion. Empathy, it's all about putting things into perspective, looking at things through their eyes. If I was them and I'd already been sharing for 4 hours, 5 hours, I'd be getting pretty tired, I imagine. My tolerance for putting up with shitty sheep might be getting a bit short. I can understand why you're tired, why you're scratchy. You've been working hard today. You haven't stopped for a break. However, I would like to talk to you about something. And lastly, the dignity side of things. This recognises that we all walk around with a bubble around us, and we call it the dignity bubble. It's very easy to stab that dignity bubble, burst it, and embarrass people. If you stood at your wool press and you shouted, "Oi, stop that frickin' behaviour with that sheep," really, really loudly, then what's everyone else in the gang going to do? They're going to turn and look, aren't they? They're going to look and they're going to look down and they're going to, hey, bloody, this guy's going to get a hard time, this person's going to get a hard time about that. They've just been embarrassed in front of all of their workmates. If we can perhaps address it in a slightly different way, maybe go up to them and talk to them one-on-one, then we get our point across without necessarily making them feel small. Yeah. All right. Brief. Very brief. Got any questions?
That's something that interests me as far as that dynamic in the shed.
So I guess when we're having interactions with people, we fit into one of three sort of categories. A green situation, if it's like a bit like a traffic light, for example. A green person is perfectly normal, right? They're happy to converse with us. We're asking questions back and forth, etc., and it's perfectly fine. Then we've got the ones in the amber, and we've got a couple of layers in amongst the amber. We've got frustrated people to start with, and then we've got angry ones on the other end of that. Frustrated, they might be huffing and puffing and twitching around, and they're rubbing the back of their necks, and they're fidgeting, and they're doing a lot of those sort of body movements and things. Whereas when we start to move up to the next level of anger, we see a change in their demeanour, don't we? And it's a lot less fidgety and a bit more firm in their manner. Their eyes become a bit more fixed, if you like. Their stance becomes a bit more rigid, if you like. They puff their chest out or something like that. Maybe make a fist with their hands or extend their fingers out. Their eyes become a bit more tunnel vision, don't they? So we can start to understand a little bit about where amongst the spectrum these people might be. Somebody who's in the red circle, then they're ready to pounce, if you like. They might be saying something particularly horrible, threatening to us, or they might even be trying to offer some violence. Or they might actually try to grab us or punch us or something like that. Yep. So understanding where we fit along the spectrum becomes important. So what do you think we can do when we see somebody who's showing those higher end signs and symptoms? What do we do about that? Do we sort of stir them up? Is that what we're after? That's
get them out of your shed.
pretty unhelpful, right? Anybody got any tools that you use when you see somebody that's getting a little bit elevated with things?
That's point to the door and tell them to get.
Okay. Get.
Or I threaten them with the contractor.
Okay. All right. A lot of people will say if we can pull them aside and let them have a bit of a vent, tell us what the problem is, let them gob off for a little bit, then that might be just the thing that gets it off their chest and they're prepared to go back and maybe reset themselves a little bit. But what is inside our control is how we can front foot the problem right at the very start and say, look, when we move into the shed, I have got a very strong animal welfare mindset, and I'm going to call you up if I see stuff that I just don't think is right. Please don't take exception. I want the sheep to leave here in good condition, well shared, and we've all earned some money and then off we go.